to start with tonight is we're going to start with occupations and jobs. And then after that, go through our sports. We have kind of a miscellaneous, and then at the end, we have weather. So we kind of have a big chunk of science tonight. If, like Miss Katie said, if we don't get through them tonight, we will hold them and continue them on next week. So we should be good there. So starting off with our jobs, the first sign is the sign for work and job. They're the same sign, really. And it's going to be two S's. And you're going to have your dominant S tap on your non-dominant job. And it's like the base of your palm of your dominant hand taps. Yeah, work. Work. And this one, so use it more for work, but you also can say for like job, because you can say, oh, what do you work as? What do you do for work? That kind of thing. That same sort of meaning can be applied. If you're talking about the actual sign job, you can fingerspell job, J-O-B. That in itself is almost, like I said, those like fluid signs where it's like job. But most of the time I see work. Excuse me. All right. So the next one we have is like fixing something, like I'm fixing something. And you're going to have like two little hand puppets and you're going to go back and forth. Fix. Fix. And that can be like, I need you to fix the TV. I need you to fix the water, the plumbing, things like that. That kind of, any kind of fixing. Okay. Oh, so this is a good one. I don't think we've done this one before. Is what do you do? So like, what do you do for a living? So there are two ways you can do it. This one's really more so for this, like for a living, like what do you do? Is like, what's your job? You'd basically say that is your work. What? So your work. What? And this is also where you can do your job. What? If they, and the reason I say that is because I could see a possibility of someone thinking you mean like where you work, but you added that what. So it should be clear enough to them that you're asking like, what kind of job do you have? But just kind of knowing in the back of your mind, if they start describing like a location, you'd be like, oh, like what's your job? I guess you could say job title, which would be job. And then you're gonna have like two little, like when we do air quotes, that kind of thing. And you're gonna like kind of hover them next like level to your head. This is title. Title. So your job, what? I know I'm going kind of fast. So your job, title, what? And this can be fun fact. This can be used for talking about titles of movies and books, all kinds of titles. So just saying, that's like the whole like general sign for title. Okay. The other what do you do is this one's not really it's what are you doing, but I'm going to apply it here because you could be like, what are you doing? And they could say like, I'm working, and then start describing that. So what are you doing? Really in ASL, you are going to do a sign that's called what do. And so what it is you're just going to do like, like our little baby shark, you're just going to pinch it up like this and you go, and you just have the eyebrows on and it's what do. What do. Sometimes you can do the one hand. Like I'll see a kid if I'm like, I know they're like, they have their Chromebook open and they're supposed to do the worksheet. I'll be like I will lean over and be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So what do? Okay. The next one is then help / I need help. So if you remember when we did help is going to be a thumbs up on top of your non-dominant. Help. Now, if you are talking about you needing help is going to be, I don't think I've talked about directional signs. I'm going to explain them just a little bit here. So there are certain signs that are going to have what's called a directional sign. And what that means is that it really depends on who is talking about who. Or like, I know that made no sense, but like, so for example, if I'm talking about I need help from you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my help sign. It's going to start away from me towards you. And then I'm going to bring it towards me. Because I'm talking about how that I'm wanting you to help me. So you help me. Okay. If you were going to be offering help, like, do you need help? That kind of thing. You would start it yourself and bring it towards that person. So just think visually that the help is like, think about like how you're giving help, receiving help. It's going to be however, like it's coming towards me. That means I'm getting help. It's going away. That means I'm giving help. Does that make sense? Okay.
Hey, Jillian, if we're saying, so if I was saying to someone at the library, do you need help? I
Mhm.
could just, I don't need to say you.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
There are two ways you can do need help. One is the help you, like help. And then the other one is saying need, which we did a few weeks ago, I think. Need help. And you just kind of bounce it. You can do that one as well. Need help or help, need, that kind of thing. But you can do that help you as well. Those kind of can be either or. Okay. So let's do these two. I know I said one, but I'm gonna do these two because they're very similar and they go together. Man and woman. So if you guys remember when we did family signs, we did mom and dad, we did mom and dad. Man and woman are going to be very similar, added one new sign to a new part to it. So woman is going to be mom and then to your chest, woman. So woman. Then man is going to be the same thing, but with dad. So dad, man. Man. So we have our woman, man. Okay. All right. Now let's go back. So we had work / job. So we had work, work. It's like, okay, you're gonna have your dominant S. The base of this hand is going to tap on the side of your non-dominant. Yeah, like right on the line, like here. See? Yeah, work. There we go. Yeah, work. And that also can mean types of like work, like not just like a job itself, but like, oh, I'm working on this, that kind of thing. I'm working, I'm busy, I'm working, that kind of thing. Okay. The next one is fix / fixing, which was the little hand puppets and going back and forth. I like to think of this one almost like, and I know it's not like fiddling, like, when you're fiddling with something like stitching or trying to fix like a ripped like seam in like your dress or pants or something, and you're kind of like going back and forth with the stitching. That's what I think of when I think of fixing, is that sort of thing. I don't know if that helps anybody, but that's kind of what I think of. So, all right. Then we had the what do you do for a living versus and the what do. So the first one we did was your job title what. So we had your job title what. Okay. And then I added the next one, which was that what do sign, which was what do. What do. It's like baby crab pictures. What do. What do. Okay. Then we had help. So we had our help sign itself. Then we had the I need help. So remember, you're going to go away and bring it towards you because I need help. I'm the one who needs it. Help. And then helping you. So have it towards me already and bring it away. Help. Help. This one also you can do if you're talking about two different people. If you're telling someone to help this other person, you can also do the same thing. So like, excuse me, if I'm talking to two people that are right here and I want this person to help this person, I would go, you help. I'd look at them saying you and bring it over here. So you can tell who's going to help what. So just kind of FYI, if you notice someone does like this, you can be like, it helps you know, oh, she's talking about she helped him helped her, but he helped her. Ooh, my English, guys. Him helped her. Ooh, I told you, not an English teacher. All right. The next sign is woman that we did, which was mom, the chest, woman. And then we had man, dad, the chest. Okay. Now, the next set of signs that we're going to do are going to be, you'll notice a pattern where it's going to be the almost like, oh, I can't remember what's the word of it, what the actual word is, the main part of the word adding that ER. So like, for example, the first one we have is obviously teacher, because as a teacher, that's my first one I think of. It's going to be, what you're going to do is you're going to do the sign for teach, and then you're going to add the ER, which we use as the sign for person. Okay. And that's going to be a very common thing you're going to notice as we go through these signs. So the sign for teacher, you're going to start with the sign for teach, which is going to be, again, those hand puppets. And you're going to have them to the side of your head, and you're going to go teach. Teach. And it's just like you're bouncing it back and forth. Teach. Okay. So to do teacher, you're going to go teach person. Person. So the way you do person is just open hands, go down. Sometimes some people will go peas and go down person. And that peas. Yeah, sorry. Peas and down. Yeah, peas. And that one is just to be a little bit more, like I said, that English, I've talked about the difference between ASL and signing C. Okay, good. I'm so glad to see some nodding heads for that. I was like, oh, every time I think about it. So that can be a little bit of that P adding there. But most of the time, you can just leave it that open hands person. Okay. So our next one is librarian. So you're going to do the sign for library, which is an L. And you're going to make a circular motion with it. Library, library, person. I love the fact that that is like that's how you add that in any of those kind of things. It just makes it so simple, direct, that kind of thing. This was blunt. I'm sorry. I realized I went direct on, it could be direct, but the sign for blunt is like a B, and you bring it forward. It's like it starts with your forehead and goes forward. Blunt. Because it's direct, straight to the point. It's not weaving back and forth. Blunt. Okay. So then the next one is artist. So again, this one's going to be the sign for art. So art is going to have your non-dominant hand sideways. Your dominant hand is going to be in the pinky. And you're going to slide your pinky back and forth across your hand. Kind of think about, like it's sticking out and you're brushing it across. If you're like, put your hand sideways on it. Other way. There you go. And then swipe it back and forth. Art. It's like you're painting or drawing on an easel, that kind of thing. Art. Art. So you would go art, person. That's an artist. Artist. Okay. The next one is then lawyer. So if you remember when we did our in-laws, so we have for law, it's non-dominance, again, this palm sideways. Dominance in L, and you're going to go law. Top of the top and the bottom. Law. So lawyer would be law person. Okay. We'll do one more, and then we're going to go through those. So remember how I said work, which is going to be work for those who joined us. It's like two S's, one on top of the other. Work. If you're talking about being a worker, just a general worker, like, I'm just a worker, I do this or whatever, you would do work person. Worker. So nice and simple. Okay. Let's go back to our teacher. So for teacher, again, we had that hand puppets for teach and then person. Teacher. Sometimes they'll do, because I know I bounce. When you teach, you go bouncing back and forth. When you do teacher, it's like one time and then down. Yeah, so teach, back and forth. And then teacher, once and down. And this is another one. Sometimes you can see someone going teacher. Like they literally just has one hand and goes down. It's like very shorthand. So teacher. Then we had our librarian. Library person. then artist, artist, artist. Then lawyer, lawyer. It slightly bothers me that the fact that lawyer and law, they don't have the same starting sounds. So I can't do that like art person sound. I can't go loy person. Like it really bothers me, guys. I don't know why that's getting to me right now, but it is lawyer. Okay. Then we had worker, work person. Okay. So now let's go to our next set of jobs. This one, the two we have right now coming up, you don't have to actually add the person to it because the signs themselves already are for them, if that makes sense. And they are doctor and nurse. So doctor is going to have your palm up like this. Your dominant hand is going to be at this bent kind of shape. And you're going to tap at your pulse. Doctor. Doctor. This also can be for, you can use this for saying, like, I have I'm a doctor or I'm seeing a doctor. If you are going to the doctors, you can also use this for like kind of a location. Typically it's always, I'll see it with doctors. Oh, excuse me, doctor's office, which I will sign you office later. Hold on. I know. You guys are like, what did you do? I will show it later. I promise. It is a very weird one. And every time I do it, it's weird. Don't let me forget. I will do it at the end of our jobs, but I'm going to hold on that one. Okay. But most of the time you can't just say doctor, like I'm going to the doctor, things like that. So this can be just kind of a place in itself too. So then the next one for nurse, very similar to doctor. The only difference is instead of all your fingers, it's now just two. Nurse. Nurse. I do feel like this one helps too, because if you think about it, like it makes sense, like checks your pulse, they always check your pulse all the time. So doctor, nurse, that kind of thing. Just a little helpful tip if that helps. Okay. So now we're back on to adding the people again. That person sign. So the next one is chef/cook. Okay. So we're going to do the sign for actual cook, which is going to be palm up. You're going to start with your dominant hand facing down. And then you're going to flip it. Cook. It's the visual of like bouncing things back and forth. Like, for example, pancakes, that kind of thing. So this is cook. So you would go cook person. And that would be a chef. Cook person. On the occasion, and this can kind of be for a lot of, like, can be a thing. It's not very often. I see it more with this one. For chef, sometimes if you're talking about the job itself, instead of adding that person, they'll just say cook. But you will be able to pick up on, oh, you're talking about you work as, like, you cook, that kind of thing. So if they forget that person, I think I figure I'd like a lot. Cannot talk. I'd like to think you guys can be able to pick up on, oh, she's talking about cook and we're talking about jobs. She's a cook. She's a chef, that kind of thing. So, but I wanted to clarify just a little. Okay. The next one is the sign for engineer. So the sign for engineer is going to have the like, I never know what to call it. The verb of the word is going to be the sign for measure. Okay. So it's not engine. Engine's a whole different thing. So it's going to be the sign for measure is going to be two Y's. You're going to put the thumbs together and you're going to have one go down. Measure. Measure. It does not matter if it's your right. Ooh, that feels really wrong. Left. Sorry. It's just weird feeling. If you do it the opposite direction, like I'm so used to doing it this way that doing it right is like, it feels like you're writing with your opposite hand. So measure. You'll do measure, person. And this is engineer. Engineer. If you were going to get specific on engineering, and the only reason I know this is because I have friends who are chemical engineers and all the terms. You can add the like other word in front of engineer, like mechanical engineer would be the sign for like maintenance, that kind of thing, which this is a new one. Miss Katie, you've not seen this one. And so it's going to be a pointer finger and you're going to have this V and you're going to like attach and go back and forth. Maintenance. It's like, think about like how they're screwing things together, like, pliers. Yes. Oh, my dad would be really upset if I can't figure this out. That's the word. Ooh, I knew that was wrong. Ooh, don't judge me, guys. I told you, math teacher over here, okay? So you could be a mechanical engineer. Um, if you're a chemical engineer, what you do is you're gonna have two C's for chemical, and you go chemical, and it's like you're pouring it in. Biomedical. Ooh, that's a good one. Let me see. I'm trying to think how I would say that one. Um, so there's two ways you can do it. The finger spelling. Um, hmm. Or you could do now. You make it looks, but it also make you get your point across instead of having finger spell biomedical. But I would kind of go with the biomedical. Is you could go BIO, and then this one's for one later on, but I'm gonna show you the sign for medicine. It's your middle finger down, and you bounce it back and forth. So biomedical engineer. Ooh, I can already hear someone yelling at me for saying that. It's not going to be the perfect ASL, but it's something. I think biomedical I would finger spell though, just for safekeeping. But if you see someone do biomedicine, sometimes they will do that. I have been caught doing that with certain things. Like we have this like literacy thing that's called bedrock, and I will go bedrock, and that's not right at all. And every time my coworkers are like, and I'm like, I know, I just didn't want to finger spell right now. Like I get in trouble for that. I get called on that. And I'm like, I know it's wrong, okay? Because like it's not actually like because it's a literacy, it's a program, it's not actually a bed that's made out of rocks. It's not literal, and that's why it's wrong. But sometimes I can get a little lazy with finger spelling. It happens to all of us when you have to finger spell a lot. So yeah. Okay. A surgeon. Oh, that's a good one. We've not done that one. Okay, so a surgeon is going to have the sign for surgery and then a person. Okay, so surgery is going to be your non-dominant hand sideways. Your dominant is going to be in this kind of like that A, and you're going to use your thumbnail. Okay, and you're going to bring it down across your palm. Surgery, and it's yeah, I know. I knew someone was going to realize this is very literal, like just cutting in. So surgery. So surgeon. That's a good one. We've not done that one before. Okay. Let's do one more and then we'll go through these again. Okay. Because I know I'm adding a lot. I'm getting more specific. Normally I just kind of like leave engineering as engineering, but now I was like, oh, I'll add a few. So the next one I have is for a businessman or businesswoman. This one's also just kind of like a general, like, if you work for a business, like I typically like, because I mean, I'll admit as a teacher, like I don't always know the technical, fancy terms that are used in businesses. Like people will say things and I'm like, what is that? And then they like, I work for a business. And I'm like, okay, that's something that like, there's just very interesting titles sometimes in different places. So this is like I like to call my generalized, like I will use the sign if I'm talking about someone who does something that it would be like a very long like spelling and they work for a business kind of thing. So you're going to do the sign for business first. Okay. Business is two B's. Your non-dominant B comes sideways and your dominant B is going to bounce back and forth, across the top of your fingers. Business. Okay. So business woman. Ooh, I knew I was going to do that. Business woman. Business man. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our doctor. So we had doctor, doctor. Then we had nurse. Then we had our chef, cook, person. Then we had our engineer. And then I added the mechanical engineer. The chemical engineer. I knew saying it slow was going to throw me. Chemical engineer. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I was about to add science. That's why mine threw me off, because the reason the C's do this is because the sign for science is two A's going back and forth. And it's like the motion of pouring different bottles in, because science is always related with experiments. So it's like A's going down, science. And so that's why that C makes that motion for chemical, because chemical science and that kind of thing. That's why my brain was like, oh, let's add science. I'm like, no, it throws it off. Chemical engineer.
So then
Okay.
is the sign for science, is that scientist? If you
Yes.
just, okay.
Yes. That is not one added to our list, but yes, scientist would be scientist. So if you were going to add, we're going to go spiral off this real quick. I promise we'll come back to our review of the last 2 or 3. If you were going to talk about a chemist, like you're a chemist, you work with chemistry stuff, you would do the chemistry person, a chemist. That, and then a biologist is bees, same thing, bee person, biologist. So nice little fun fact. That is one where those letters, using those different letters do help apply to different things. So, okay, we had our surgeon. We then had the surgeon. So surgery person. And then our businessman / businesswoman. So business woman, businessman. You could do business person. Like if you're talking general, you're not talking about a man or a woman, you can do business person. That'll work too. Okay. Now on to the next set. I think what I'll do is, because there's
Wait. Show us office.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll do office. So bear with me, guys. It is a weird one to sign because when I do it slow, it makes me, I feel like I'm doing it wrong. That's why I have to like say, bear with me. So visualize, you're going to be making a square kind of shape. Okay. With your hands. You will start with your O's like here. More like, I do more like this. Okay. And you're going to slide them out like, my goodness, this is the hardest one to do. Office. So your O's kind of look like they're facing you, I guess you could say. And then you're going to twist them out. Office.
Kind of like you're using piano wire to strangle somebody.
Yes.
Okay.
That, yeah. So office. Okay, I love the visual for that, Ashley. Beautiful, beautiful acting there. Office. So the reason this was like, this one I struggle with doing is because this sign, not just the O's, but just this sign in general, is the sign for talking about a room. So if you're going to be talking about the room itself, just a generalized room, you do it with R's. So you start with like the R's like facing this way, and you come out room. Now, what's important, you can't really tell because it's not like looking down like aerial view, but I am starting with the rooms kind of like the top of the bottom of the squares. Okay. So like, let's see, like this, the top and the bottoms, it's like this. This is how it looks like when you look above. Okay. And then I bring it out to the sides. So room. So it's like they're in front and the back.
You're using your fingers to define the space.
Yes.
It's just, we're not looking at it.
You can't see, like, I mean, I could like, it like does that. Do you see the square? If you stare at your hands as you do it, you can see a square kind of deal. Room. Which is why the office looks weird, because the O's doing the same thing. Like you had your R's rested like this, your O's are there. Office.
So for office, then, if you're talking about like an officer, like, do you use that sign for like office person? Like if they were in the military or a police officer and you just want to say they're an officer?
No, those two, both military and police officers have their own signs, which actually I
Okay.
don't have on our list, but I'll add those two at the end.
We
Mhm.
have never done military.
We haven't. We
I was
actually
gonna ask, is there like a sign for just general military? Is there like a different branch kind of thing, or
Oh my goodness.
There are different branches. They change every time I ask, though, I will say. So I'm going to give you yeah, I know. You ask one person and they'll say, oh, I use this. And then another person's like, no, you just finger spell them. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'll kind of give the generalized for a military. Then I can break it down for like Air Force, Army, and then Navy, I always fingerspell. I will say, I love how I'm doing this now. I'm going to hold on to this. We're going to come back to this. We're going to do the last few we have, and I will come back to this. If not, someone send me a message or remind me like Miss Katie
Well, I
did.
made a note and I put a box around it. So
No, that's perfect. With that, I was going to add though, if you're talking about a classroom, you also do the same thing. Classroom. It's like the C's sideways and down. Classroom.
hey, Jillian, when you were saying, what was the sign for space? Like, at some point you said something about space. Oh no, room. When we were talking about room,
Yes.
do you use the same sign if you're trying to say there's no room in here?
No.
Okay.
Wouldn't. So I'm gonna get a little explaining on this, guys. Okay, if it
Okay,
goes,
and I'm sorry.
no, you're good. No, that's a good question. That is a very good question. So the talking of this term space, as in there is space around, is a very complicated term to be using in ASL because there is not an actual sign for space like itself. There's not an actual sign for space up in the skies either. It's very complicated. You have to use a lot of either acting it out, well, not acting, but like showing it off, not showing it off. I can't think of the word. I can think of it in ASL, but I can't think of it in English. Basically acting it out, like having to set the room kind of deal, set the scene, that kind of thing. And then also using different ways of saying it. So when we say there's no more room, you could use the sign it's full. So full is a fist, and you're going to have your dominant hand slide across. It is full. There is no space. So you would go full, no space. Like I typically go like there's no room. No. So you really want to add that room into it because in the literal sense, if you were to say there's no room, you're saying there are no rooms, like as in there's no rooms here. Like there's no things like that. So that's why you can't really add that room for saying like a space term because this is talking about the actual square space used for a room. Okay. It gets very like complicated. That I would be saying is touching like ASL, like that 2-level advanced kind of level when you talk about space and areas and stuff. So yeah, I would not use it for saying there's no room. I would just say it's full. It is full. There's no space. Full. But I was going to add with the room, there is also this is more the ASL fully thing. And it's like these open hands. You'd start front and back again and do the box. This is sign for box, but it's also the sign for like a room without adding those like R's. It's open hand. Room. Either one kind of can use. I don't get judged for saying room. I don't get judged for saying this one. That's not one I see because there's so many ways you can easily like explain a classroom. Some people will even do classroom. Like I do class, like that C, like our family sign. It's a C that comes together. And then I do room, classroom. There's a lot of ways you can work with ASL. It's I'm trying to throw 1,000 signs at you guys, but that's what happens. Okay, let's come back to our new set of signs real quick, and then I'll come back to police officers, firefighters, and military. So the next one I have is the sign for president. Okay, and this can be the president of the United States. This can be the president of a company, the president of a I'm losing can't think of a service, anything like that, any kind
Priority. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. I'm sitting here going, oh, there's more than that. So what you're going to do is you're going to have these C's on the side of your head, and you're going to pull them out like you're making horns. President. I know. I was very thrown when I figured out this is the sign for president. And then I remember asking, why is this the sign for president? And then someone said something about it being related to like the seal of the president of the like US seals thing. But then I was like, wait, what? But it didn't make any more sense. So I just was like, okay, president. And this is when you really want to do one hand. You would do more of that 2-hand. If you were like holding something and you really couldn't, you could. But it's not one of those like typical ones where if you did the 1 hand, it'd be fine. You really would want to go both. Okay. The next one is vice president. What's really nice about vice president is it's literally just VP. VP. So president gets this whole big fancy sign, and then vice president is just VP. VP. Okay. The next one is therapist. So a therapist is going to be the sign for therapy, adding that person at the end. So we're back to that now. Okay. So you're going to have your non-dominant hand up. And you remember how we had our help is like this? It's going to be that same thing, but with a T. Therapist or therapy. Sorry. Therapy. So therapist.
And that's psychologist, speech therapist, occupational therapist.
Psychologist would be different. Occupational therapist, you can do, so depending on how well your area, like for example, at school, we do OT. There's OT, like OT. That's our occupational therapist. Or we'll do I typically do OT and then therapist. I add that OT therapist. But if I was talking with somebody outside of school, like someone completely different who does not know, I probably would fingerspell occupational therapist. Just to make that one be kind of clear.
And would it be goofy to be like work therapist? Like, is that
like if I was saying what my job is?
No. I guess what I'm trying to say is instead of saying you know what? Never mind. Well, let's just go on.
Like my job is I work with I work at I do therapy.
Well, I guess what I was thinking is like an occupational therapist is somebody you go to because something has happened at your work. And so I was thinking, but that doesn't make sense. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because it would come across like I was saying I work as a therapist.
Yeah.
Instead of saying
fingerspell that occupation.
Yeah.
Therapist.
That makes sense.
Especially because I'm sitting here thinking our OT is totally different. Like, I mean, it's still the same thing, but it helps with like skills, like with writing and hand movements. So I'm sitting going, oh, I wouldn't even think with that. But yeah, I would go.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Therapist. And then you said psychologist. So psychologist does have its own. It's a sign for psychology. And then adding that person. So psychology is going to be two open hands. You're going to have your non-dominant come kind of forward with the palm still facing out. Your dominant's going to come in and tap. Tap, yeah. Right in the crook between your thumb and your pointer finger. So this is psychology. Now, obviously, you're not sticking as close as possible. I just was being dramatic for it, so you knew where my hand placements were. So psychologist. Psychologist. Yeah, psychology. And then since we're here, I'll add this to a counselor. And so counselor is going to have the sign for counseling, counsel. What it's going to be, I had to like make sure to do it real fast because I wanted to make sure my right hand shape was right. It's kind of this like flat O. And your dominant hand is going to be kind of in that hand puppet shape again. You're going to start at the back of your hand and go counsel. Yeah. So it's like you're pushing it towards the person. This is also a sign for advice. Yeah, I know it's one of those kind of weird ones. The reason, so what I help to make me think about is that I'm telling you things because I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to give you good advice. So I'm sending you my information. That's kind of my visual, if that makes sense. Is that advice? So you would go counselor.
So it's counselor and advisor?
Yes.
Okay.
If you were talking about your advisor in college, I probably would fingerspell advisor.
Okay.
Because while yes, they are helping you with advice and stuff, they're not really a counselor. You know what I mean? I would fingerspell advisor just to make it a little bit different. Because even though we call it an advisor, they're not like an actual like counselor kind of deal. I would separate those two. But yes, no, I'm glad.
What about like a mentor?
Oh, there is a sign for mentor. Try to remember what the sign for mentor is. I can't remember it right now. I haven't had to use it often because I typically because what I do is when I'm talking about it is like if I'm talking about like I look up to someone or like they're helping me, I'll be like they helped me. Like I think I would finger spell it, but I will check on that because I think there is a sign. I just can't remember at the moment. Let me put this in here before I forget. That's not my list. That's your list. I was about to try to type into your email. That was not going to work. Because like I said, if you do end up finger spelling mentor, I mean, it's not a super long word, so it's not going to be too big of a deal. I think there is a sign for it though. I cannot believe I can't think of it right now. Because that's one I definitely would probably have used at school at some point.
Well, this whole point of me asking was just to stump you anyways, so mission accomplished.
I try my best to be like, there are certain things I know, and then I'm like, but yeah, you got me this time. Don't worry. No, I'm not gonna say. I was gonna say it's not gonna happen again. It most definitely will probably happen again. There's so many words and so many signs. You just never know. What am I doing? I'm trying to give me. Oh no, let's not do that. Let's do. Sorry, I am trying to go through this fast so I don't keep holding us back. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. So that's what I like. I finger spell for that mentor. Yeah. Okay. So our next one, back to the list because we've gone off this list so much. It's insane to me, I think. So the next one I have is manager. Okay. So manager is in its sense, this is going to sound, it's also the same signs for control. Okay. So manage and control are the same signs. They're going to be two X's. You're going to turn them sideways and you're going back and forth. So this is manage. This is also control. So you go manager. Manager. I don't know why I always like to think that it can also be controller. Not as a controller like a game, but controller like a controlling person. But most of
the boss.
Yes. Yes. So manager like at a restaurant or if you're talking about like if we're talking about like the office, like the business sales manager. There it is. I knew I was thinking of it. You would do the sign for sales, which is shopping. It's like bent hands and you like bounce it back and forth. Sales manager, that kind of thing. But yeah, manager.
So then is this salesman?
Yes, actually,
Okay.
yeah. Salesman, saleswoman. Yeah, salesman. Good. Oh, I love seeing those applied skills. Getting all giddy like a teacher again. Well, I am a teacher again. What was that? Guys, bear with me. Like I said, okay, it's almost summer. Teacher brain is so bad right now. It's been bad for the past few months or weeks, not months. All right. The next one I have is server. Okay. So like this talking about like at a restaurant, you know, like a waitress or a waiter, that kind of thing, a server. So it's going to be similar to our manage. You're going to have your palms up and you're going to go back and forth. Serve. This is serve. So server is serve person. Server. Okay. Then my last three on this list, okay? Then I'll do military and police. I did not forget it. So the next one we have is the sign for clown. And the sign for clown. I know, okay, it's a little bit all over.
Listen, I included this one and I laughed when I included it this morning. I don't even remember why we did it, but it's a good one to know.
It's a job. Also, it's a good one to know if anyone says anything to you about it. Because like if they're calling you a clown, it's good to know what this sign is. So the sign for clown, you don't actually add the person to it. It is literally clown. It's clown, like holding the nose, the red nose. Clown. It's a clown. Clown. Okay. The last like real sign of a job, and then the other one's retired. I love how I'm trying to like not just tell you the word, and then I just go ahead and tell you. The one we're doing now is astronaut. Okay. So what you're going to do for this one is you're going to go rocket person. So the sign for rocket is you're going to have your non-dominant hand sideways. Dominant's in that R. You're going to have it on the side and you're going to shoot it up. Rocket. So rocket person. This is what I typically use for astronaut. Some people
Is that not the sign for Huntsville?
So the sign for Huntsville, very similar, I was about to bring it up, is everything, but instead of the cross fingers, it's an H. Huntsville, which I love because of the space station. Oh, I can't talk. The
So could you use rocket, like for aerospace engineer, could you do like rocket engineer?
Yes, you could. Oh, that was a good question. So yeah, rocket engineer. They'll definitely be asking you more questions if that was like your job. Trust me, they're nosy people, and I'm nosy. I'd be like, wait a minute, explain this to me in great detail. Like, I want to know. So, but yes, our astronaut. Um, okay. So then the last one we have is the sign for retired. Okay. And so for retired, there are two ways you can do it. One of them is going to be more that English with the crossed fingers for the R's. And then the other one's more that ASL. So we'll start with the English one first. You're going to have these R's with your thumbs, and you're going to go retired. You go on like the tops, like right above your armpits, retired. And you just tap it once, retired. Retired. The other one is L's, retired. I have seen someone do the whole hand retired. This one, honestly, I teeter back and forth on how I come with this one, because this also can be vacation. Like I'm on a vacation is the open hand. And so I always just do the R's. I kind of just always do retired for the R's. But depending on context, it does kind of make a difference if you did see someone doing this, being like, I'm done, like my job, I've retired, or I've retired, that kind of thing. That's a fun one. My kids were using it. My sixth graders, they keep trying to say they're retiring from the elementary building. And I'm like, but you're not retiring from school. You're retiring from elementary, but you are not retiring from school. Oh, they get so mad when I say it, but I'm like, technically. Okay, now let's go on to the police, firemen, and all the military. All right. So we'll start with police. Police is going to be, and this is the same for cop, for both of them. You're going to have this, like, I call it a baby C because it's not a full-blown C. It's just that one finger and the thumb. And you're going to go across your chest, either way, either direction. And you just tap police. It's like for their badges and stuff. Police. All right. The next one, fireman, firefighter, is going to be a B, and you're going to bounce it on your forehead. Now, remember, you don't want to go straight. You want to go on the back of your hand. Fireman. Okay. That can also be kind of signed for a fire truck. I typically will go fireman, and then I add the sign for truck afterwards to kind of help emphasize I'm talking about the truck itself and not the people. So, because you could do you could do firemen, or you can do firemen, like those either ones kind of go. So for fire truck, I would go fire, and then truck is like that two hooked, and you go in a circle on the corner of your mouth. Truck. Don't know why this is truck. Don't ask me why this is truck. I can't tell you why this is truck. This is truck. So fire truck. Okay. Now for military. The sign for military and the sign for army are both the same sign. Okay. So it's going to be these two A's, and you're going to have one go across your shoulder. The other one is right below, like you're on your ribs. Military. And the reason for this is the visualize of like when they have their military weapons and they have the strap across and it kind of hangs on that side and they're like holding it, that kind of thing. Military. Like I said, this is for army as well. Air Force, what I do is I go military, and then I do the sign for plane. Sign for plane is in this I love you sign, and you fly it above your head. Plane. So military, plane, Air Force. That's kind of how I describe it. And then for what am I trying to think of? We did Army, Air Force, Navy. I typically will fingerspell Navy. Sometimes I'll add the sign for water, like just kind of, be like the military that's on the water. Marines, I fingerspell as well. I have seen some of signs for them, but they're not ones that I almost want to feel like are fully official. And so if that makes sense, I know they're probably like, what do you mean not official? It's like shorthand that we're like, oh, we use it to help with, especially with kids who have a hard time with reading, but it's not a full-on sign itself. So I typically just fingerspell Marines. Coast Guard, kind of the same thing. I fingerspell. I think that's all the, well, I know there's more and I'm not thinking of them. The best I can say is do military and fingerspell. You can also describe them if that helps. Like I said, that water, like military on water, Navy, that kind of things help. Okay.
Would you
Ooh.
have to finger spell the ranks?
Ooh. All right. Let's see. I have to think. You're throwing me again. This is not fair. 2 in 1 night is not fair to me. Especially because I'm not the greatest with military ranks. So that's why I'm trying to sit here. For like lieutenant and sergeant. Lieutenant and then sergeant, right? Isn't sergeant like the top, like, isn't it? Lieutenant's like second in
You
command.
got private, sergeant, you've got corporal, you've got, yeah, lieutenant, you've got colonel, you've got major, you've got general, you got like a billion ranks. But are there any signs that you know of for any of them? You know, because I just don't want to have to finger spell lieutenant because I'll lose my mind.
Yeah. So what I would do is depending on the person you're talking to. See, if you're talking to me, I would not suggest doing what I'm about to say because I'm gonna sit there and go, that is over my head. Is you could do the placement on your hands. So like we were saying, so like sergeant being on the top, being like SGT, I guess, sergeant. And then adding the military, like I do the military person first. So like let's say for example, you were in the Air Force. I'd go military Air Force. I'd point to me and go sergeant, possibly. Trying to think. Sorry, I'm changing my mind because again, not a military person. So it's like I'm trying to visualize how I would describe this. If I was a military person, I'd probably be like military pilot. Oh, add that too, by the way. I realized I did forget the person. There's so many signs to add in this one. Military pilot, like Air Force. Like because this is just the Air Force itself. If you're talking about you as a person, I would go military Air Force pilot. And then I'd say like me. Honestly, you could do SGT for sergeant. Isn't that the shorthand? SGT or lieutenant LT. I would definitely make sure that it's someone who's familiar with it, as in the sense of like they at least have an understanding of what sergeant and lieutenant would mean. If not, you could fingerspell lieutenant the first time. What you could do is you could go Ooh, I'm not going to fingerspell lieutenant because I don't think I could fingerspell lieutenant. Lieutenant and then go LT, like show like LT, like that's kind of that shorthand kind of deal. That can also help too. Man, I'm trying to think. That'd be my best, not guess, but my best. That would be my way of doing it. I do have a tendency of over explaining things though. Ooh, I think it's the second one. See, I know you don't know either. Again, math teacher, not English teacher. Don't expect me to know how to spell everything.
Sometimes I like to see if I would win at a spelling bee, and I think I probably would.
I know my strengths are not that. I can guarantee you guys that it is not a thing. I'm like, ooh, you give me a really fancy word. So, but yeah, that's what I would do for military ranks. Is I honestly would just kind of finger spell them.
Okay, and is this not like situations where if you had like your specialized language, your specialized ASL occurs in groups of people who are speaking ASL to each other. Like there probably is a sign for all that stuff, and it's just not one.
Oh yeah, there
that you would-
I was gonna say what's really cool too is like, and this is why I always say, I mean, they're just kind of it depends on the region. For example, like at school, like I said, we use this for OT. This is OT for us because we have occupational therapists. That is one we use often. So we always will say OT. That's kind of our thing. But like I said, if I went to talk to another group of people who like I like socialize with outside or whatnot, and I went OT, they may be like, what are you talking about? What's OT? Is it like initials? Like they'd be probably very puzzled. So I'd have to fingerspell occupational therapist. So like almost like depending on the group itself, like for people who are in the military, they probably do have signs for different things that they use, and they may not be like the official, like everyone uses them, but they use them. Like I said, that OT, they may have something. So there could be something they have for it. I was trying to think. I don't know. I have to check on that one. I'm sitting here because like, and the reason I was doing this and then I was like, scratch this, not this, is because if you're talking about a senior, junior, like a junior manager or senior manager, something like that. You can use your hands for that, because for the sense of talking, like, think high school, we have freshmen, sophomores, junior, senior. The way it goes is it goes freshman, like you go on, I know, I don't know why the pinky's here. It's just here though. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So I would say, like, if I was like saying, I mean, you can't really be a senior teacher or junior teacher, but like if I was a junior writer, I'm trying to think, you know, they have the juniors and seniors, that thing. I would say
Senior manager.
thank you. A senior manager, I'd probably be like a senior manager or manager senior. I would add that senior. That's where I was starting with the military, and I went, but it's not senior. It's not really freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. While it is ranked, it's not the same. And I was like, no, I'm going to get rid of this. That was a bad idea. That's not going to go smooth. So that's why I had the hand up. But
Speaking of junior, senior teacher, what's professor?
teacher.
Just teacher? Okay.
I know
Got it.
there are college professors who get very upset if they don't have that doctor at the front. And so what you would do if you were talking about I typically add the sign for college when I'm talking about it, like college professor, college teacher, because that was one of the interesting ones. That was kind of a hard one for me to like let go, because the English in my head is saying professor versus saying a teacher. And it felt weird to be doing a college teacher. That just felt weird. It felt wrong, because we all call them professors, but the sign is the same, teacher. I will add this last little one because I now see it as 6:31, and I've really chatted your guys' ears off tonight, but I was going to give you the sign for college. So the sign for college, you can do a C, but you can do also this flat hand, and you swipe up and up. College. Yeah. College. Fun fact, Auburn sign, because Auburn does have its own sign, is AU.
I can't wait to show Evie.
Yes, no, you should. I was trying to remember, because I know Alabama has one. It might be like AL. I don't know. I'm an Auburn fan, if you couldn't tell. So I tend to just block out. I'm like, no, Alabama. I think it's either that or Alabama. I think most people just typically just go Alabama, because state Alabama, when they say, oh, what college you go to? Oh, Alabama, that kind of thing. Oh, I'm adding more. I'm sorry. University does have its own. It's a U and up. University. So you could do University of Alabama, or Alabama University, that kind of thing. Because that's what Auburn's is AU. It's Auburn University. So the more you know. But yeah, okay. Are there any final questions you guys have? I know we're over time, but any final questions? Any signs? So criminal. I would have to.
Yeah, what about the illegal jobs?
So, for criminal, you could just do bad person if you needed to. Or you could do the sign for I'm trying to think. Sorry, I'm like, I sagged because I'm sitting here going, because what I was gonna say is jail person, but that also could be a jailer. I would do maybe trouble. Trouble is like two B's, and you bounce them like in front, like they're one's in front of the other, and bounce it back more. Trouble person, bad person, trouble.
Gillian, when you're doing this, are your hands hitting?
No, they're like, it's like doing this motion going back and forth, and then the other one doing the same in front.
Oh, okay. Trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like if I could turn it sideways, if you see they're in front of each other, they're never.
Yes. Okay.
Colliding. I was trying to show that, but I didn't think I could. So yeah, trouble person. That kind of thing is how I would do it for a person who's probably in jail. You could also do the sign for jail, which is jail, not bouncing. Sorry, that's filter. It's fours and you bounce it. Jail. This is filter. I'm the swiping back and forth. Sorry. We're talking about filters at school because we're changing all our filters out. That's why my brain went, oh, filter. Software engineer. What you could do is if I get mad, hate, I'm sorry. Okay. Computer engineer, software engineer. I like to think are a little bit similar because they're still working with computers and technology. If not, and it's a very big deal, I would fingerspell software. Oh, perfect. Okay, good. I was like, I truly worry. Is this person going to get mad at me for saying computer engineer? So the sign for computer is your arm is sideways. Your non-dominant arm is sideways. Computer is a C and you go up your arm. Computer engineer. So computer engineer. And that's how you do computer engineer. So yeah, there's your software engineer. I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one. Okay, so it's now 6:35. I'm gonna let you guys go.
This was a really good lesson. I feel like I should email every single class we've ever had and be like, y'all all need to go watch this one.
Oh,
We
I
did
feel
so
like
many new ones.
this one was a really big group of new ones. I think so.
Yeah.
It'd be a bad idea.
Which is good.
So,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
anyways,
Thanks, Drew. That was a lot of fun.
Yes. Throw me off twice. Ooh. Y'all have a
See
great
y'all
week.
next week.
Bye.